thinking like the crowd and doing the conventional things won't get you to great places. If you do things that are wild, that are different, that are maybe more interesting and also more hazardous and adventurous, you will get in great places in life, I think.
Exactly. I really love your statement. I really find it really,
Thank you very much.
Exactly to the point. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode. And welcome again to the podcast. Believe it or not, this is the first episode of 2023, and it has to be special. And for this specific reason, I've got one of the special guests here in Bahrain. He's none other than Sheikh Mohamed Ashoor. First of all, thank you for making time to be here in the podcast, Sheikh Mohamed.
Thank you very much for having me, and it's an honor to be, the first video for 2023. So yeah.
Now, Sheikh, before we just to go into this podcast and just to know you more and to the audience know you more about you, I'm really thrilled to know your story. And when I mean your story, I mean to say where you started and where are you at the moment. But let us take some time to go and talk about your beginning. And when I say your beginning, I mean your...
Yeah, see, to me, I think my story is very lengthy because I've been on this earth for about 30 years now, as you have. So... maybe let's put the story at the beginning of the days in which I felt the urge to study religion and to go forward as someone who wants to provide the services in Bahrain. So I've been maybe thinking about this for a very long time, but the actual time in which the change has happened was when I was 17 years of age. And I had a simple project to try to improve the learning experience, religious learning experience in this village, Sadat village. And suddenly I found myself very fond of this, area of work. And I was so interested and intrigued. But either ways, I decided to continue with my university studies and finish them first before I go into in-depth religious studies. Because even though I had a passion, but I still had to find something to fall onto in case I found out later on that this passion is not practical for me, at least. So basically that was the turning point.
So meaning to say, when you had said that now, when you graduated 17 years old, then when you were in high school, what was your study? What was your aim? Were you knew that at some stage you're gonna be? Where are you at the moment?
No. See, I am not the sort of person that would conventionally go into religious studies. I had many other interests, especially academic interests. Basically, I even was thinking about going into law or medicine, and I was very intrigued to go into those too. But, I was very outgoing, and I think that I still am. And what happened is that at that time period that you are speaking of, at 17 years old, I had no idea that I was actually going to go into this field. And I felt detached, if I could say, from such area, because and so many, I think, of the viewers think likewise. We think that there should be a conventional type of personality that goes into this field. And I did not feel that I fit, within those parameters. And so I did not see this coming, basically. But then I found it as a calling, as something that I must do, not something that I should do, but something that I must. So it's even on a higher level. And when it came to that, when push came to shove, I decided to basically go ahead and follow my newfound passion. And I think it worked out great, at least from my perspective.
But before you do this, let us talk through your beginning. So you started in a school.
Yes, Abdurrahman Khan International School. Yes.
Oh, so it's
private school.
Okay, so it was a private school, and at the day, what was like in terms of subjects, in terms of this, what was really?
Actually, in Bahrain, there are like specialties in which you could join in high school.
Exactly.
Either you want to go into languages, or for example, you want to go into sciences, etc., or you want to go into the industrial field. So what we had in school is actually you chose the subjects that you had, and the subjects that I chose do fall into the category of sciences. So basically I focused on physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, etc. Yeah. And there I had the chance to study actually in Abdurrahman Khan International School, the IGCSEs and also the IBs, in which both I got, alhamdulillah, God willing, I got merit. And and I was very happy to have these courses as an addition. So basically, when I graduated from school, I basically had three types of certifications, one from Bahrain and one from Cambridge University, which was linked to the IGCSEs, and one from Geneva, which is the International Baccalaureate. That was before university, Bahrain University.
Wow, that's really interesting. And that's normally does not happen until unless you are really a student.
You get to choose, even in our school, you either chose the normal stance in which you study just the curricula of Bahrain, and you could choose the IGCSEs, and you could also choose the IBs. So basically you opt for them, and I opted for them all. I love a challenge, so that's the thing that I did.
Wow, that's really inspiring to say when you opt for them, because you knew at that point that you have the capability to achieve all of that. I mean, if I would have to talk, I had said that in my first episode ever, that what I have done in my high school, which I scored very low, by the way.
but it was also inspirational, your story and mine, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm sure. So, what was your challenges when you've done these subjects? That I know that people sick and tired from such subjects. So, what was the difficulties that you faced?
See, the first thing that I know is that it was more difficult than I anticipated in the preliminary phase. So. Actually, the level that we got as an IB and IGCSE was much higher than the level that one would get in high school. So basically, it was just like starting university, but on a lower level, let's say. So it was quite difficult, and I scored much lower than I thought I would. But at the end, I went around and I found my way.
Up the pace.
Exactly. It's just like trying when you're walking slowly and suddenly you need to walk fast on a treadmill or something, or else you'd fall. So fortunately, I did not fall, but alhamdulillah, I continued.
Amazing. And I really like what you have said, like you literally being so honest and saying that I didn't get what I expected, and then slowly I started to understand in the matrix of it, understanding how my performance would be, and then pick up the pace from there. I imagine since you were in such a curriculum, and it's international curriculum, where you had an experience of, for example, some sort of projects or something like involved in a war or something like that. I think you've done something like that.
Yes, I've done actually many. One of them is I also participated in the Model United Nations conference. It's like just the United Nations. They give us basically each one a certain nation to represent. And then, we just try to fit ourselves into, whichever category we are in, like a judge or an ambassador, etc. That was a nice experience. I also participated. I actually forgot the name. TradeQuest, maybe. I think it was TradeQuest. So basically, they give us fake stocks in the market, and they see how we do. And we did not succeed as the first, but we learned a lot about the economy. Also, one of the things I participated in while I was studying those courses was the CAS program, in which you would have to be to try your best to intervene into doing good to the society. And so we did. I actually went twice to Africa, in one of the most, or let's say least privileged places in Tanzania and Zanzibar also. And it was like a humanitarian effort that the school organized. It was very nice, actually.
Wow, it's really interesting to know. I would like really to dig in that experience.
Sure.
How long you been there in Africa and Tanzania specifically?
2 weeks each trip. So one trip was, I can't remember accurately, but I think 2008, and the other was maybe 2010.
Okay.
just before I graduated. So
Okay, and what that experience? What first of all, what was your objective out of this trip?
yes, I forgot to say that. See, there was actually some schools that needed refurbishment, and they needed some furniture and also some things. So basically, we went there and we gave financial aid, and we also took some stuff with us as donations, also for the whole school. Actually, the school put a fundraiser, and also not only a fundraiser, but like gathering some articles of clothing and medicine, not old ones, but rather new ones, and that is refreshing to see. When we go to a less privileged place, we usually take the worst things, but they took the best. And we had a lot of companies that were also sponsored each student. So when we went there, we actually had the chance to do a lot of good. So the aim was trying to refurbish schools and trying to aid them into getting some of the things that are not readily available, maybe, let's say, to them. So yeah, basically that was the general aim, and we got to know the civilization even more, the people there, the culture there, and we lived through astonishing yet very, very nice experiences.
Now, having said that, if I would ask you what these trips really evolve in yourself, what this has made you? I mean, lots of people have telling me that sometimes they go to trips, and especially when you say such a thing like United, I'm sure that this experience has built something in you. What that change in your personality when you were there?
Yeah, well, a lot of things I could say, but I think the most prominent and important, first and foremost, is that it taught me that you do not need money to be happy. And I know this is such a cliche thing to say, and people say it always, and it's usually the rich people that say that, and the people that feel less inclined in sharing. But really, that was the thing that happened. Believe it or not, I've seen that they were not wearing any sandals, like children in the elementary school, they're not wearing any sandals. They take, the leftover bottles of oil, they clean them out, and then they fill them with water, which is regularly not very clean, and they tie it to their necks and they walk around with it. It's like a canteen, they carry it around. And even there was something that was really shook me to my core. It was like, they were very, very inclined to share with us, even though they were very poor. Like they wanted to give us some of their water to feel like, and they called us, Mzungus, which is like white people. Yeah, that is in Kiswahili.
You mean like immigrants?
Yeah. But that is the word that they use for foreigners. They were not trying to be racist at all, but they categorize. So we were in that category. And, they tried to share with us, and some of us were afraid, on their health, because you don't know where this water came from, etc. But still, the love that we felt, them giving us, not we giving them, was very great, to the extent that we wanted to share this water with them, and other basic things. They gave us like small bracelets. I still have one, I think. So, they just handmade, and they all gave like a very nice anthem for us when we came. And I still remember, not the words, of course, I don't speak Kiswahili, just a little bit, but I still remember the beauty of their faces and the beauty of the songs, and also the rhythm in which they were going. It still lives within the beats of my heart, I think.
Oh my God, I think this experience is lived with you till now, and it's really changed you, right?
Correct. It is.
And when you came back from this trip, how was the reception from your school? I mean, like other students, when you were sharing these stories.
See, they were so, I don't know what word other than envious to say. They envied us because we had this experience. And basically, we had a competition who could attain a sponsor that would pay for the expenses of the trip and also the financial aid. So all of us went, not all of us, most of us went with money that was given by actual firms in Bahrain. And some of them were governmental, some of them were not. Anyways, so we had this competition, and many of us tried and failed. A small minority, and I was one of them, was able to go. Actually, there was a trip in between those trips that I could not go. I forgot to which country, but I think it was also in Africa.
Okay.
I still believe that. So, they were envious, and they wanted to know all the stories and tales of whatever happened to us. And we had interesting stories to tell, believe me. So, yeah, it was very interesting.
And what's the difficulties that you face? I mean, you were in Africa, middle of nowhere, and then you have to help the school, and you're rebuilding all of this. I imagine, like, I'm not being racist, but I'm just imagine someone who were, juggle. I'm not juggling. Like he's been in contact, like private school normally, rich people only,
correct.
Above,
predominantly, let's say, yeah.
Yeah. So having said that, like for example, when it's come to food, when it's come, some people not have that strong personality to handle that pressure, or to live in a country there where you have to be with a strict diet, or I don't know.
See, I would beg to differ in this, because what I have seen was very astonishing to me, and sure, I had the same, not prejudice, but the same stereotypical idea that we are both discussing right now until that time. The people that went there, they were in different levels of the society also, in matters of how they live, their lifestyle, etc. But still, I've seen that all of them had the humility and had the love and compassion and empathy to share. I never seen one of them, like not using the same utensils that the others do, or drink the same water, or try the same food. They were actually very adventurous, and that was very nice to see. So I think within each one of us there lives an adventurous person that is waiting for the right experience to show himself and expose the true reality that we all are human. We are just only a little bit more fortunate.
Oh, that's really interesting to know. Now, having said that, you go back to Bahrain and you continue your study, and you graduated, as you mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, with merit. I believe merit's meaning that
high achievement, yes.
High achievement, yes. So after that, what makes your decision for university? What makes you go to university itself?
This was actually a part of a feud, not a true feud, but it was like a conflict between me and my father. My father.
I would love to know.
He would, believe me. Yeah. So what happened is that I had the strong inclination to go and study religious studies. And religious studies, they don't give certificates usually. So basically, I would be someone with a high school education if I go there directly.
Okay.
To wherever you go. So my father had another idea. He said, come and, just finish your baccalaureate and then go ahead, do whatever you would like so that you'd have something to fall onto. And I was not very convinced that was the best thing for me to do. But then later on, we had a compromise, and then he understood exactly what I had in mind, that when I go to study, it was not something, just like without any plan or anything of the sort. No, I had a full plan and aims, like short-term aims, mid-term, and long-term also. And when I sat with him and told him all of this, he was convinced that I truly knew what I was doing. Even though I still believe now that I did not have the full idea, but he had his trust in me, and I had my trust in myself also, and my confidence. So I tried to do my best. And within that compromise, I also decided, not only because he wanted to, but then I also found out that, I could find a good compromise in order to get the best of both worlds. So I studied Arabic and also translation in the University of Bahrain. And I graduated 2015. Later on, in the 23rd of August 2015, is when I flew to go abroad and study the religious studies.
Okay, before we go to the religious study thing, now having said that, first of all, you mentioned that you had been graduated with IGCSE,
yes.
and also
IB.
IB.
Correct.
and that allowing you to be in a higher, in a stronger position when it comes
Correct.
to choosing
universities,
and extra stuff like that. What made you go to Arabic language as a major? I mean, to say, having said this, and with what you have just mentioned, when it's come to your, when your passion and your subject, and you choose different types of subject, and it's like completely shift to Arabic language. What made you go for such
this
a
is a bit
major?
embarrassing, but I would say it anyways. Anyway, see, in Abdurrahman Kano International School, may God rest his soul in peace, I actually, learned Arabic, and a lot of Arabic, but it was Arabic literature rather than syntax and grammar. So when I graduated, I felt a weakness in syntax and grammar in myself, because I spent the last 3 years of my education studying predominantly literature. So when we graduated, we were like writers, we were poets, we were people, we were critics, because like in 1 year, maybe we would read 3 to 4 books in Arabic, full novels, and we would give our interpretation, our criticism, etc. So it was a great program, and there was also a course set for syntax and grammar, but we did not choose that, or I did not choose that. Many other from my friends have chosen the other path. I found it maybe not interesting to me. So anyways, but when I had the plan to go and study religion, I knew that I had to have strong grounds in syntax and grammar, and also, I don't know what they call it, phonology, etc. So I decided to study that in university in order to aid me in, as you said, the great shift. So I did. And when I wanted to study translation as a minor, because I have Arabic as a major and in translation as a minor in UOB, which is the University of Bahrain. And when I wanted to do that, they did not agree. The administration told me, how do you want to study Arabic and also study translation? It does not fit. And they told me, that most people that study this are English majors.
Exactly.
Yeah, or translation majors, which is the basic program. So I had like 1 full month or a month and a half in which I was, going back and forth with them until they finally agreed. I still remember that I actually forgot his first name, but he helped me a lot. His family name, I think, is Abu Layla or something like that. Abu Layla, yes. So he really helped me out a lot into getting into this program, and I did. So yeah, it turned out to be good, I think.
And how long it takes you from, when you have those A-levels and diplomas that you graduated with, didn't that serve as the first foundation year, or directly?
You see, that does not happen in all universities, and in Bahrain it did not. So in the UOB, so so international studies. International universities. Yeah, unis over there. Usually they do that. They reduce 1 full year. Yeah, and that's what I did also. And I had actually some hope that would happen to me, because I always like to compact my studies in order to go through to other levels. So basically, that did not happen. Yeah.
That's actually, it's interesting, because what I knew from the people I mingle with, or the people that I get to know them when I was in England specifically, that some of them who graduated from private school, they will skip the first year for university just for this specific reason.
Yes.
That's what the aim for.
It does make sense. Yeah, it does make sense. But in Bahrain, see, our Ministry of Education has different sets of rulings when it comes to these things, especially when transferring from another university to Bahrain, or which we call in Arabic mu'adala, like having a certificate that exactly. So basically what happens is they're a bit strict here when it comes to this somewhat. So maybe that was the reason. I'm not really sure.
Okay. And I can imagine when you were asking this, and then like, I've done extra diploma and I have done this and this, and then eventually I can't even use it.
Yeah. Well, it was beneficial on a let's say academic level and a professional level. Yes, it was very, very and I would also urge anyone who could get any extracurricular program or even intracurricular program such as the IB, IGCSE to go through with it. It's very nice, and it's very helpful.
In the end, it depends on how you believe in those things. So
Correct.
What I do believe is in the end, it's investment in yourself. So
yeah, it is.
So if it is added in curriculum or adding extra curriculum, that might not help you in your future, but then it will help you as a personal
As
level.
an individual, correct.
I would go for it. Some people will not, because they just think of getting the certificate just for the sake of getting the certificate.
I see. I think that just thinking like the crowd and doing the conventional things won't get you to great places. If you do things that are wild, that are different, that are maybe more interesting and also more hazardous and adventurous, you will get in great places in life, I think.
Exactly. I really love your statement. I really find it really,
thank you very much,
exactly to the point. And that's what we need, what we see, like successful people all about saying is taking that risk. And
well, hopefully I am. I know you are, so
it's really interesting. Really I'm really astonishing by the way you conclude it all together in one sentence. Now, having said that, you go to University of Bahrain, and nobody thinking that you are the one, and then you've done all of that, and you choose your major, which indirectly was in your pipeline. And how long it take you to graduate it then in this case, if they didn't allow that?
Actually in the University of Bahrain, I tried usually to take the topmost amount of subjects within each semester. So I started off the first semester with 6 subjects, which was a downfall to me because in some subjects I did not do so good and it affected my final GPA. But still, I had merit from the University of Bahrain. Anyways, and I believe in 2 or 3 semesters I had 7 also, and even in the final semester in which I graduated, I had my thesis at the same time that I had the maximum level of subjects also. So, but still, it boiled down to 3.5 years. If I took the 3rd semester, which was usually that time within the holy month of Ramadan, then I would have finished much earlier. But I opted to have that time for myself, for God, for my family. So I did not opt for. So without the extra 3rd semester, I also finished much earlier than others would do because I had this in mind. I just wanted to leave as soon as possible.
All right. And how long that took you from the beginning till the end?
Yeah, like beginning to end, maybe like 3.5 years.
3.5 years.
Yeah, almost 3.5 years. Yeah.
So it's still good. Still compact. I mean,
it is
to that extent that you call compact. It's still compact. Like
it is. And bear in mind also that I also did not continue all of the semesters back by back. There were some issues that happened at that time period in which it caused me to withdraw from many subjects and also withdraw from the semester. And so it also had a gap. So basically when I graduated from school, it was 2010, the end of 2010. And I joined in the end also of 2010 in Bahrain University. And I finished in 2015. So there was a gap in which, I withdrew. So basically, we could, if we counted, maybe it was like, it was 5 years, but the actual study approximately 3.5 to 4 years. Yeah.
Nice. So to that extent, it was fulfilling for you, I think, right? So after that, when you graduated, you had high aims. Were you trying to find a job, or what was you thinking at them? Or you go back to your dad like, hey, Dad, I graduated. No, you had to. What was going there?
Well, see, I knew that for a fact that if I went to my dad, he would help me find a decent job. Because my dad knows a lot of people everywhere. So basically, from his line of work, so I could have done that. But I actually had a job opportunity that was given to me while I was studying in the University of Bahrain. As per part of my studies as a minor in translation, I had to go and actually have not a probation period, a training period with one of the translation firms in Bahrain.
Okay.
So I ended up joining in one of the firms, the topmost media firms in Bahrain. And I finished my 2 to 3 months with them. And they directly also gave me an opportunity to work with them. And I work with them until today. Today as a freelancer, because I obviously have other places to be, other things to do. But I am freelancing now with them until now. So from 2015 until now, 2023, I'm still working with them.
Oh, nice. So you work with them as a full time. They first of all they give you
as a freelancer.
So at the beginning they give you like a project in order to fulfill the university requirement
correct.
for graduation.
They were not whenever someone that goes there as an internship, they don't usually give him high tier jobs, because they want quality at the end. And even if they do jobs, they will have someone else check them. So I wanted to get a step ahead of that. So what I did was I tried my best until before the finishing the time of my internship there, I was actually doing proper work for them that does not need to be checked by other people. So so I think that was the reason why I got the job opportunity, and then I went ahead.
Wow, that's really interesting. And then they give you a full-time employee, and you started with them.
I started with them, yeah. But soon after I left, because I had to go and study abroad, and we couldn't find a
where
compromise.
You had to talk with your father, which you had to convince him that you need to do a completely shift paradigm, because the way we as an Arabic culture, especially when I said Islamic culture, when it's come to educating people just like you, going to be a sheikh or that program,
an Islamic reverend,
exactly. So normally that will happen when you going through, for example, not even high school. Their parents will decide it, or you will decide it, if this is your correct path, and then you will go to be specifically for that job.
Correct.
When you had all of this, and I mean by all of this, like you've been a student in a private school with a diploma in IGCE, and then with another diploma, and then you had your another merit with a bachelor degree in languages and minority in translation, and then you fall in love to the subject where you went to as
religious studies.
Not even religious. When you went to the kind of trying to get your certification progress, which as of the requirement that you have to do certain hours in this job, where this job find you and they believe in your skills, and they were so happy with you that they even don't have someone else to quality check your work, and then they actually give you a proper contract where you graduated. What makes you leave all that and go?
See, I did call it a calling before, and that is an understatement, because I believe it is much more than that. It is also intertwined with faith, as I believe, as a Muslim. See, there are some things when you figure out, and when you see, and when you learn in life, you would know that this is your path, even though maybe you do not fit, as I said before, fully into it, but it is something that is a must. It is like an obligatory thing from God. That is what I believe happened to me. Why? See, as I told you that I had this shift when I was 18 years old, which is very late for someone who wants to go to, Islamic studies. Usually they know that when they're like 10 years old or something.
Exactly, and that's what their parents will do. Go to Iran,
exactly.
Go to Iraq.
Hence your question. See, what happened is that I found out that I had, let's say, a certain capability of interacting with the youth, and also with giving them the Islamic teachings that they need, even though they were the same age of me, and at that time period. And there is actually a story that I would not like to disclose, but after that happened to me, the certain story between two brackets, after that, then I knew that this is the path that was meant for me, and that I should go and pursue. And so I did, and it was a difficult decision to take, even to convince myself. It was very difficult, because, as I said, I did not fit within the criteria that is conventional for people who would go and study religion. But all in all, I think, after all of this journey until this day, this is the best thing that ever happened to me, I believe.
Okay, and that story when you disclosed that between that bracket, when was that exactly?
At the same time, 2018. When I was 18.
So you had this even before you go to university.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I decided to go to university for many reasons, for stability and for a backup plan, and also to please my father also. And finally it was because it will aid me somewhat. And then I found out, no, to a large extent in my religious studies also.
Now, when you went there really and you started your religious studies, it's different for them, and especially
So
when you will
different.
come so different from all other students that they will come. Especially you went to Iraq, isn't it? You said?
Yes, correct.
So all the students around you. No, not only that. Let me say, what are the thoughts of the people surrounding you? You don't need to mention that, but if you don't want to disclose it.
No, this is okay. This I could answer. Is they were all astonished that I would have this inclination to go. Some people had this. Yeah, most people. Some people, no, they said, I knew from my heart that since you were young that you would go and do this. So there was a split.
Okay.
But hugely, most people would say that they were astonished because the general let's say trajectory of my whole family also, it was not towards religious studies but rather towards business, towards self-improvement, etc. So they were a bit amazed, and some people still to this day are. So
exactly.
when they found out of for example who my brothers were, who my family were, they were saying, like it's like a path that we would not think that you would go to. So
exactly. And having said that, your achievement in school and your achievement in diplomas within the school, and then your achievement within the university.
To say the truth, I don't think that they were lost. Rather, they were very well invested. So even though I went into another field, like these certifications and credentials, they don't matter anymore.
Exactly. Yeah.
But to my individual level, as we both said, it did a lot.
And what about the other way around? The other people that you were the other student or candidate.
Okay, so so the peoples in the religious school that I went to.
Exactly.
Yeah, see, they were so different. Not because I had finished the university degree, because many of them have. Actually, one of my colleagues over there had his master's degree. Not only the BC. So, anyways. They were different because of their backgrounds, because I was at that time the only Bahraini that was in that school. Many other Bahrainis then later on came, but I was the first one there. So that in itself was a huge difference. So I decided that it was best to understand the culture and also focus on the study at the same time, so that I would be with them as one. And I believe that to an extent I was successful in that.
Okay, and how long, just a general question now.
Yeah.
For the benefit of the people that they don't know about that.
Okay.
How long is their normal curriculum in order to go to this religious studies until the moment you will wear
the turban? Okay. See, it is very different, and different schools do it differently. But in my school, when you leave the intermediary level and you go to the higher levels of Islamic studies, is the time in which they would enforce you to wear the turban, even if you do not want to, because now this is your work field. It is just like, like the medical students changing their scrubs, okay, and from white to blue, so that you would know that this is the doctor, so that people would benefit from you. So this is what happened. And there is no set time period. It depends on your pace, because it is a free study. So you could choose how many lessons you had. You could choose who the teachers are. There are several teachers teaching the same subject, so you choose. And basically, in my case, it was like 2 years and 7 months exactly.
2 years and 7 months.
Yes.
And that's average, or that's very fast?
No. See, I want to talk about the school actually, without mentioning which school exactly. But this school in itself, usually it would take one maybe like 4 years to 3 years to 5 years, depending on his tendency to study or how much he is busy, in order to finish that. See, there are two factors that are very important. First of all, that they study for approximately 10 and a half months a year. When you compare it to even academia, and when you compare it even to other religious schools, you would see a vast difference in which the curriculum, I mean the study year, is very long. You could also continue even in the months in which there is no study, as much as you can, as much as you want. So that was a very helping factor. Another thing, we had a very strict, let's say, administration that enforced attendance by teachers and also by students. And if there was any missed class, then you would have to, compensate. So you cannot just miss a class and then not have anything.
Oh.
So I think the general, and there are people also in my school that finished in the same time period. So it is not something special about me. Rather, the school aids you to whichever extent that you want to persevere.
Okay. So it was very strict as well. I can tell her.
Let me tell you this. We had like daily exams, weekly exams, monthly exams, bi-monthly exams, semester exams, an exam after you finish each book, an exam after 2 years, like a unified exam. And, wherever you go, it's an exam. Daily, you'd have to attend all the lessons and write everything that you have learned today. And you would have to have a study mate in which you would repeat the whole session of studies that you have today with them. So you would both, one of you would be the teacher and one of you would be the student. And it was very tiring and fun. At sometimes there was like, I dare to say, like 15 hours of studies, continuous studies. And then, we would sleep and then we would go ahead. But that largely depends on how you organize yourself. I was an expat over there. So I'm not living there. So I decided that I wanted to go in a faster pace in order for me to achieve more things, because I'm there, I don't have my family or my friends from Bahrain.
Social media, social life, basically.
Over there, no, I did, but what I was saying is that I left the social life over here.
Exactly.
So I would be more free there, and that is one of the most prominent reasons why I traveled. And so basically, based on that, it is very challenging. Even the success, the grade in which you would be considered as a pass is 80% from all of those, like the exams, etc., projects. So it was very challenging, very, very challenging. And some people would say that like 2 years and 7 months in order to finish the preliminary period of studies is so fast, because some even do it in 7-8 years.
Oh,
yeah, they do that. But
is it because of your school, or is it because
exactly because of our school and our administration and our teachers also, the whole system basically. But what I would like to say is that there is a testimony of people succeeding and achieving, because there is like a unified exam in Iraq in which all of the religious schools students would go and would have an examination. The school in which I belong to, and also the accompanying schools that go under the same administration, they were the highest achievers always in those tests. So we would compete with people from outside of our schools, and it would show. And even, I have much to say about this, but I think this is enough to show that this school is special in itself.
Okay, so you mean to say that's the quality of this for the graduate of this school is normally superior than other schools where doing the same thing?
I can't say that for sure, but what I could say is that there are testimonies of this happening. Yes.
Okay. Makes sense. Now, if I would ask you the challenges that you've been for this religious, what is the best name to describe it?
Religious studies. I think
so what is the difficulties that you faced the most when you do this?
See, I failed a lot in the beginning. Even though I had all of these certifications and credentials that I thought would mean that I would succeed and excel from the first day, but what actually happened is, I started failing in many examinations at the start, and failing is not an option for one who studies in such school. Because it was a different type of study. See, in Hawza, which is the religious study for Shiites, which is the ones that the Muslims that believe in 12 Imams after the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family. These Hawzas actually the whole religious study groups that are within them, they do not study as other places like the academia studies, because in academia there are set points and achievements that you had to make. You need to memorize a lot of the things, and you need to understand a lot of others, and basically passing means that you have a well-rounded idea about a certain subject. In Hausa, you have to be a specialist. So basically, when we read a book and when we study a book, we study it from the cover to the cover. That is the first thing. Second thing, we stop within each word and phrase. Why did he use this phrase and not other? We try to criticize the book owner, and we compare the knowledge that he gives with other books that are in the same field. Exactly. We make our own, cultured guesses and educational guesses about what should be the truth. And so we have to formulate our own view of the whole subject. So when you finish, you know everything and all the details regarding it. So you don't know only the information, its background, where it came from, what was it based upon, and the conflict in it, the evidence with it and against it. You would know all of this. This is what you would know. So, and this is why it is well known, even in not only the Shiite background, but also the Sunni background, that people that study in Hausa, for example, are really good, exceptionally good in Arabic, and in the way that they understand syntax and grammar, and the all phonology and etc. All of this. So I think this is the reason why.
Okay. Now, if I would ask you, if I would compare between the two, between the academic and that include your school, your IGCE level, the diploma level that you took, your bachelor degree itself, and then the religious studies, the conversion between the both, which one was difficult? What was the challenges that you think that one is?
See, in the first, the academia study, the thing that was actually difficult for me is memorizing, because I'm very poor in memorizing things. I am very efficient, I think, in understanding things, but in when I have set things to memorize, I don't think I do a very good job. And I memorize through understanding, not through just blank memorization. So that was, I think, the most difficult thing that I had. Anything that had to do with memorization is very difficult to me. Actually, I failed with an E in social studies in the last year of high school for many reasons. One of the reasons was that we did not have a chance, to study the full course, because it was later on obligated to us by the Bahraini government and the ministry that we need to study this. So we spent the last year, I think, not studying the whole the curricula, and we had to crash course it for the last 2 months, etc., so that we would have our Bahraini certifications. And fair enough, we did, and I got an E, so I just higher than enough, maybe, I don't know how much, and it affected my GPA, but still, alhamdulillah, I got married, thanks to God. So anyways, that was the difficulty over there. In Hausa, it is truly a different world, and and I had the biggest problem and hurdle to me was trying to recalibrate my mind to this new part of study, in which I do not have to just understand and accept, but rather criticize and formulate my own opinion and try to understand in depth. And it was very interesting, and basically it rewired my whole brain, I think. I feel that it makes one much smarter. I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about the general public in Hausa. So that I think is the main difference.
Do you think that experience, you only experience it because you have different background of study, or normally all the students that will go to Hausa, even if they were not going to high school and university, will have that?
No, there must be a difference between one who goes to Hausa with his, academic studies, finishing until the university, and ones that don't, because when I entered this Hausa, I had many other colleagues that did not go to university, and we were essentially studying the same thing. The pace in which they could grasp the information was much slower than, not me, but the ones that studied the university. I am not here saying for the Hausawi students go to study in university or don't. It is up to them, and many because Hausa will take from you at least 15 years of study.
Exactly. That's the normal logic.
That is the normal logic. It is. To me, it worked out differently. And to me, I see that it does give you an edge when you go and compete within Hausa if you have, like the university studies. So I still believe in that.
Yeah. So I think it is because also your parents wouldn't think that, the people around you, they didn't really believe in that. And you, just like you mentioned, you knew your true call in an incident when you were 18 years old.
Correct.
And that's a true call, allowing you to say like, okay, I need to go university to finish and please my parents, but at the end, this is my true call, and I do know that this is my next step, which is really astonishing to see that you've done that. Perhaps another people will not even, they will just like, they will skip uni and then they will do whatever they want. But then you wanted to an extent to to make sure your father and your family pleased with you, then you've done your more.
Of course, that was that was one of the aims, but not one of the higher ones, or the reasons in which I went to university. I believe that there is a fine line between passion and excitement. If you have passion towards something, then you would do it, but you would do it in a very, very well-rounded way, and you would be very smart and intelligent in approaching it. If you are excited, then you may do things that would not work out to you and they would not benefit you at all. So I had passion, not excitement. I tried to control myself, and this is why I kept myself, let's say 4 years away from the studies that I really wanted, to do something that is more logical to me at that time phase. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Now, you when you graduated as a sheikh, or like when you finished this 2.7 years or almost 3 years from your life in Iraq, and then you came back to Bahrain, do you have to go there, or what's happening there? When you
see, I as I told you, I started the 23rd of August 2015. And I continue until today, even though I'm Bahrain now, because I've been since the epidemic, because, there were, I've seen that the situation is getting more dangerous, and I decided to return to Bahrain, and still I did not return to Iraq, except for a visit or two. So I did not return until now. I am going to, hopefully very soon, after Shahar, the holy month of Ramadan. But, even the years I spent in Bahrain, there was online studies, because it was like the new popular thing to do in all of the places that provide education, however it may be. So Hausa wasn't any different. It had to accommodate to the epidemic. So they stopped all the personal face-to-face lessons, and they started all of these lessons. And I continued teaching and studying, and I continue until today. So that was not a hurdle. But basically, if I am going to go back and continue my studies, inshallah, hopefully very soon, God willing, I will do that. And maybe I will be abroad for 11 months a year, until I am content with the level I am, to continue my studies also here. I will not stop, inshallah.
So basically you're saying is graduating from the, let's say it's level 1, pre-military level, correct. Will take you approximately 5 years in a normal pace. If you were really slow, perhaps 7, you were really fast.
Really fast, like 2.5.
2.5, just like you. So you're fast, medium, and then the slow. But then when you come back, it's on also to continuing going there for another level. Or
there is something that I'd like to say from this podium, which is that religious studies is to much effect very, very close to medical studies, because medical studies do not stop. Research does not stop. Even the doctors, the MDs, we think that they finish their certification after 10 years, 15 years, and then they stop. No, they don't. They go to seminars, they have their research papers, they have their interns, they have their attendees, they have their, the whole system is geared toward lifting the most knowledgeable to the top, and then keeping those least knowledgeable to the bottom until they grow or until they leave. Because it is not an option when you're holding a scalpel in the OR and in the theater, and then opening someone, and then suddenly, which where do I go? Which line do I cut, etc. So life does not work like that, and so is religion. Because see, the most top things in this world that you could study is either the body or the soul. أتحسب أنك جرم كبير وفيك انطوى العالم الأكبر. Do you think that you are a small matter and within you the whole universe is bent? Within you, within your soul, within your body. So, and also there is a narration by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his progeny that says that actually the science is two. علم الأبدان وعلم الأديان. The science of the body and the science of the soul. So these both are very serious, because when you're talking about religious studies, it is the way in which people go to the thereafter. And we're talking about the livelihood and also, you know, the medical studies. It is the way in which a person could live and survive. So they go hand to hand, I believe, and also they are very, very, very similar. You know, let's talk about the most high-ranking scholars in this world. Let's say Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Sistani, may God extend his age. He was studying since he was 13 years of age, since he was a teenager, and he continues until today. He's teaching and he's researching and he's writing, etc. And I have met him several times, and you know, always he'd find wise words to say. And what I'd notice is that in 1992, it is the first time in which he declared that he's going to be a source of emulation, which is a marja, or someone that would give fatwa. So imagine I believe he was born in 1937, 31 maybe, 31, I think, I don't know. So at least 60 years before he became marja, source of emulation, before he gave fatwa generally to people. So imagine what type of field is this? What credential do we give him? Do we tell him you're a professor, you're a doctor, it is something much higher. But also in the medical field, there are people that study since 18 years old until they die. They continue, you know, like they're 70 years old, 80 years old, they're giving seminars, they're performing operations, if they are deemed fit by the Ministry of Health in which they reside. So basically, you know, it is very interesting to me to see the similarities between religious studies and also medical studies. And basically, you know, they both produce very knowledgeable people, and the way that they learn is very, very nice.
Interesting. Now, I want to ask you something. Now, when you come back to Bahrain, and what was your true call into going to social media?
Oh, this subject is very long now. I don't know if we should have brought this into the end of this episode, but I think I have something to say about this. See, I had the idea of merging between, you know, my proficiency in English and also my knowledge in religion that I have gained with God's grace. But I was always hesitant because it needed planning. It needed, you know, I always pushed my ambition down, and I was saying, oh, I need to record 50 high quality videos, 50, so that I would be able to go and then not suddenly have nothing to give, or for example, if I have something
like content gap, like
exactly, I want to continue. I want to continue, and yeah, exactly. So 2 years and a half, maybe, or 1 year and a half, I can't remember very well. I was planning to do this, but I could not. Suddenly, in one of those days in Muharram, Sayyid Mohamed Aqil, which is a photographer, and I think he is from Markh in Bahrain. I think he's from Markh. So he actually called me and told me, they say that you know English. And I said, yeah, they say so. And so he said, come with me to Manama and we'll just take some short clips, you know, just introducing people to Muharram and what happens in Muharram. So I told him, okay, that is fine. So I went with him, and then he said, just go. And I did not plan anything to say. It is just all in one day, all of this preparation in one day. So we had our first videos that I still cherish to my heart. And what happened is that he actually had a TikTok account, and I am still very hesitant to enter TikTok. I think I'll stick to Instagram and YouTube so far, and I'll see what will happen later on. Okay. We could talk about that later or never, I don't know. But anyways, it is a very difficult place to be in, TikTok. Yeah. It is very controversial until now, not only in the East, also in the West. The way the algorithm works, the way the videos are exposed to you, it's something. True. Anyways, so what happened is that we recorded the video, and then it went viral, super viral. You know, within like 2 days, I don't know how much, 100,000K or something, you know, a lot of views, and it spread in many places in social media.
Yeah.
So and that was only one session of recording. We had like 6 videos we recorded just spontaneously, like less than 1 minute, and it spread about. And I've had many people call me and tell me, do you know any places that give sermons in English, like Matam in English, in Bahrain? And I told them, no, I don't actually. One story, however, touched my heart very dearly.
Oh.
Yeah, and that made the change.
Okay.
And I, you know, a certain person, let's say, I will not disclose a lot about him.
Yeah, no, you don't
or
need
her.
to.
Yeah, and he or she said, or let's say they said, that it would be an honor for their spouse to come to a sermon, because they came into Islam very recently, and they wanted into Shiism Islam, and they wanted to have something in English. So I went ahead and I told them, yes, there is a sermon, directly in the phone call. And I had nothing planned. I just said it out of my mind. And then they said, okay, when? I told them, today in 12 a.m. in the morning, you would see in my channel, in my Instagram channel, a story or a post that will tell you all the details. And just to be clear, the Instagram account, it was idle. I did not use it, not active, since 2015, since I went to Hausa. I deleted all the posts, everything, so it was all empty, and I just kept it to watch. That's all. So it started, you know, the photo shoot that was with Sayyid Muhammad, it was in the 4th of Muharram. And this call is in 7th of Muharram. In between both, I had nothing to do with English. So I basically just stopped after those posts, and I was just watching how much viral it was. Anyway, so I told them, yeah, today I will tell you. And directly I called one of the people I love from Manama, one of my dear friends, and I went to him. And when I went to him, then I actually told him I want to propose. He told me, to whom? It's Muharram. I'm saying, no, not to a lady. I want to propose. I'm already married. I want to propose to a matam. And he said, okay, come to us and we'll see. And so I went to him. He does not work with any matam, but he usually went to Matam Hajj Abbas al Manama. So I entered, and there was Sheikh Ibrahim al-Safa. May God aid him. He was giving a sermon in Arabic. So when he finished, I went to say it and told him, okay, let's go and talk to the people here. You know, like, it's a good place. And he said, no, let's go to another place, because, you know, I have really good friends also over there, and they're more likely to accept. I tell them, no, it does not need acquaintances. It is just a project and sermons in English for Muharram. So if they like it, they will do it. He said, okay. So I sat with Sheikh Ibrahim al-Safa and also the administration of Matam Hajj Abbas, and they were very kind to accept directly. And they just had a few negotiations, few questions, and they were fully answered, and then that's it. And I started the next day, and there it exploded. And I also declared in my channel in the 8th of Muharram that now we would have sermons in English, and people shared it like crazy.
Yeah.
And you know, and all is past, all is history after that. And now currently the channel is gearing towards 10K followers, Mohammed_bin Ashoor in Instagram.
You must check it out, guys. You don't have to follow him. You must, in case you want to know more.
That was not an intentional advertisement. I was just stating facts.
It's okay.
I know.
Well, for the benefit of the people who listen to this podcast, whether you are listening from Spotify, whether you're listening or viewing it through YouTube, of course, they deserve to know how to get in touch with you. And normally, my guests, I would also shout out about their accounts. It's Mohammed _ bin Ashoor. I'll also write it below in the description. So check it out in case you want to know about religious things and Islam. This is your guy. And when you had this explosion, Sheikh, like, what was the aim for going really for social media? What was the thing that makes you going to social media, aside from giving ceremony in English, which I believe it was not there before in Bahrain? It was the first one?
There were some past experiences. There was a tent in Manama in which people were not religious scholars there, but people that are very knowledgeable about Islam to talk about it. That was one. It is on part of the At-Tawiyah Society, still in Bahrain, active now. And also, there was also Sheikh Dr. Maytham, also used to give sermons in English, but they were very occasional. So these were the first trials. I actually had no contact with either. I did not go to Manama in the times in which the tent was there, nor was I acquainted to the doctor Sheikh before. So to me it was new. To Bahrain, no, there were some trials before, and there still are, but not very public.
And not only that, perhaps you say in a tent, it wouldn't be as a full ceremony in English, just like in Arabic.
It was just questions and answers, acquaintances, etc.
So people, for example, people who are non-Muslim, they will just want to know for Islam, just information about Islam, in case they will really got a favor of knowing the details of that location and that
yes, they would not
only
know.
Would come to know, and if they reach that spot safely. Correct, I mean, in Muharram, it's really crowded, Manama.
Yeah. No, it is safe. I know that when you say safe, you mean like traffic safety, etc. Yes.
And the time to travel, the time they will reach there, and maybe they reach there, nobody can speak in English.
Exactly.
And the person who should give this
is why now from here I am saying, if you know English, I'm speaking not only to you, I'm speaking to all English speakers from the Ja'fari school, which are the Shiites also, and also the Sunnis. If you speak in English, then in ceremonies, wherever you are, wear a shirt that says, ask me about Islam in English. And then people would come and ask you, especially in Muharram, like you're wearing the black dress and then at the back, ask me about Islam. On your chest also, ask me about Islam. Yeah. People will come and ask you in English. So that is something good you could say. But as, let's say, an experience that I had, no, it was not presented in Bahrain.
Oh, exactly. Which was actually really amazing to have you here in the podcast for this specific reason. And because, as I said, I didn't see anybody aside from Bahrain. I didn't see anybody. Well, I have seen some in England, which basically Iranian. And to give you honestly, they weren't that. They didn't convey a pure message in English itself. They were like saying a little bit of English, and then they will have a little bit of
other language version. Okay.
So they were not really conveying a full English ceremony or in lengthy from the start till the end.
See,
so they were mixing between languages.
I actually see there are some families such as the Qazwini family in Orange County, America, and also let me remember the names because memory fails me, as I told you before. Al-Mudarrisi family, yes, in UK, and many other families. They do have mu'ammam, turban-wearing scholars there. I've been always people can communicate. There are also some other people in social media that I'm just getting to know. Many sheikhs. I don't want to mention one because then I'd have to mention the others and I forget the names sometimes. So I'm sorry for not giving a shout out. But anyways, there are. But that I found recently after I started. But it is good to know that there are some people, like crusaders going and giving the message of Islam in the most beautiful way, shape and form.
Exactly. And that was the spark to your interest to go in Instagram and spread that awareness and knowledgeable lessons.
Correct. It's a platform. Yeah.
In Instagram, because you find that the gap, if I say it.
Correct.
And perhaps there's a lot of them doing it in Arabic.
Yeah, a lot of them. It's in Bahrain, it's abundant. It's abundant, especially in Bahrain, as you said, abundant.
Yeah, but English, it's like very, very limited.
English is very limited, yes. And what I'd like to say is that the reason why, not the reason, but let me focus on something else, which is that there is a problem in which, because we have a low amount of people that are willing to do so, there are some people that are going into this field and they don't have the appropriate knowledge.
Yeah.
So this also poses a problem, which is why in English it is more difficult to find accurate information regarding the Shiite, way of thought, the school of thought. rather than the Sunni school of thought, because there they have, basically when you compare Shiites and Sunnis, Shiites are of course a minority, a small minority to all Muslims. And more than that, there are many other difficulties that we face, especially as Shiites, in when we want to convey our point of view, and also in the type of education that we receive, etc. Many other things. But anyways, I don't want to go in depth in this, but generally what I'm trying to say is I am trying to find a niche in which you would get scholars that are very heavily educated in their field and also very proficient in English. It is very difficult to follow a person who let's say does not formulate the sentence clearly, because just a change in one word in a fatwa or whatever, or explaining a fatwa, would mean totally different things.
Exactly.
So it is a bit dangerous.
Exactly.
It is not like vlogging or anything. It is like spiritual vlogging. It's something different. Yeah.
Exactly. And the people will hold you accountable for such a mistake, small mistake,
and rightfully so.
Which I agree, and having said that, actually I have not published this episode 12, which is prior to this.
Okay.
And for the people, because the time this will be published, episode 12 already published.
Yes.
One of my guests, his name Hussein Husseini, where he discussed his experience when he was in Australia.
Okay.
Where there was nobody to talk in Matam in English, and he took that opportunity before Sheikh come or whatever, and he says something like that in English, and specifically out of this, he said it his mind, and in this podcast he said I had a shock, because I thought if I made a mistake,
correct,
they will hold me accountable for that.
Would.
And
they would.
The backfire that will happen after that, it's going to be brutal.
Exactly.
And I mean it.
Exactly.
It's going to be really
because
brutal.
People would see that they're defending their religion now. Yeah, so they feel inclined to be very strong in voicing their opinions.
Exactly.
And they were with me also, and many others. So I appreciate that. It comes from a good place. It does come from a good place.
It's actually it takes a lot of courage for you to say that, and it takes a lot of courage for you to do it the way you are doing. I really congratulate you for your achievement. I am sure you're going to be something huge. Since you really take that courage and stand with all the difficulties, yet you don't have a lot of experience in it, yet you don't have lots of people gonna criticize you.
Well, that is for time to tell. That is for time to tell.
But then you show up and you've done what you have said. You deliver really strong ceremony, and it was the first Muharram, I believe. Thank you, it happened.
I appreciate
and
that
very much.
And
also you continuously share the content in both in English and Arabic. So ladies and gentlemen, in case you would love to know more about Sheikh content and to get to more in depth into knowledge of Islam, check out his Instagram account and his YouTube as well.
Yeah, it's linked in the Instagram. So Instagram is the base.
Okay, nice. So check it out. Now, before we end this podcast, I just want to know a little bit less, just for me to understand, because in this podcast, this platform or this channel is not about persons, it's just about understanding that person.
Correct.
Just want to know some small details before we end this podcast.
Go ahead, shoot.
Now, as a sheikh,
okay,
I'm imagining now you're in Bahrain, you're gonna have some approach. I will challenges you to go there for a really long time, and then you come back. I mean, just to level up and then come back, level up and come back.
Correct.
And according to your vision, where you want to reach, it's open. It's just for you.
Correct.
Now, when you come Bahrain and the way you're giving community back, I don't really need to ask you this, because now you are giving the community back with content, aiding their questions and aiding their inquiries, and anything they are not really sure about, they will call you and whatever. And then also you're gonna deliver your content based on them, or frequent asked question and whatsoever.
Correct.
Now, what does your daily routine looks like?
Oh, that was such a curveball. I did not expect that. That was the question you were aiming for. Anyways, the timeline is personal. For each person, it is different also. And for each, whether he be a religious scholar or not, it would be very different. But for me, it is excruciating to a very high level. See, because the many activities that I go into are copywriting, professional copywriting for many high firms in Bahrain and even some governmental firms. I do that to them. That is my job. And also I have my own studies to focus on. I have my students to teach. I have many research papers to write for entities in Bahrain and outside of it, and for my personal sake also. I have my newborn child, Fatima, as many people know.
God bless her.
Yes, and you too also. Thank you. She's less than 2 months old now. And I also have my family time, and I have my photo shoots, my montages. I also have recording the videos initially, yeah. And initially it is. Sometimes it sticks to the tongue in a way that does not work out. Anyway,
Yeah.
So I have many things going around. So sometimes I would sleep for only 4 hours a day.
Oh God.
But I don't promote that, and I don't consider it healthy, and I surely do not want to do that. Whenever I can, I sleep 9 hours, 8 hours a day, even sometimes maybe when I'm free, maybe like 10 hours a day. But usually the schedule is so compact, and so many people require so many different activities, and I want to have it all. I want to serve as much as I can. I know I have, and you do, and all of us have, just like a brief time in this world that we need to actually put our fingerprints and actually affect the people around us. After affecting ourselves, all change starts from heart. So we are here to mend ourselves, mend the society, and hopefully be people that are great, not in our eyes nor the people around us, but great in the eyes of God. Nice. So I think this is a good way to conclude this session.
So it's really compact, I can tell.
Very, very compact, in which sometimes I end up not seeing people around me for maybe like 2 weeks or so. This just happened actually recently. I have just a little bit of time to go and visit here and there. And I know the religious scholars are even more busy than I am. My colleagues and my teachers and they are. It's not strictly me, but since you asked, this is an in-view into how I live.
It's really challenging. I can't tell how the people will criticize you for not knowing anything, and then they thought like you're just doing an Instagram post or something like that, and they think their life is so easy for you.
No, actually, as you said, the problem is, when I started my Instagram channel, I had like 26 volunteers, but they all have a life. And I don't have a way to sustain them also, because, when you want people full-time with you for social media, you'd have to pay them.
Yeah.
And, it's their right, it's their time, it's their effort. So, because I don't have the financial resources to aid and boast such a team, I end up doing everything, by myself, like the montages and even the videotaping. That I had to do. As you did, and as many people, all people that started in Instagram, they started alone. And some people still are. But, you see the problem in which I don't have enough time comes into it. No?
Exactly. Having said that, like, even if you were really, really good at it, to the extent that you are professional in it, let's say, to the extent that it's a task from you, so you're gonna divide it from your time, and I can tell from the number of tasks that you just have said to me. Let's say you keep 10% out of it just for video editing. It's 100% way better, that 10%, to hand it to someone else who would have 100% focus on it. 8 hours of a day.
I trade that headache at any day of the week. I trade it. But for now, still, I'll continue just as I am, and we'll see where it goes.
Amazing. Now, any final thoughts to any final wisdom you want to spread to future generation, your past, or anybody you wanted to listen to this podcast?
I don't revere myself as the wise man. Actually, I've said the contrary several times within this interview, that I don't see myself very fit within this field as much as others that have, higher wisdom, But there is something that I'd like to say, which I think is very beneficial, especially with this globalization, social media, etc., so on and so forth, which is that it is very important to know the person rather than just look at what he's doing and judge. I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about the general public. It is now very easy. It is actually the easiest to judge people from afar. Sometimes you would disagree. And disagreement is something that is healthy. It is not something that is bad. you need to get around it by knowing the person, by knowing the ideology, by knowing. So I have no idea I have no problem into getting to know new people, to understand their culture, their religion, the differences between us. It is something really good. It's actually revered in the Quran. الذين يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه. At the end it says أولئك هم المهتدون. So this verse essentially in English is the people that are guideth are the people that listen to the different points of view and follow the best. So this is what we all should do. وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا. And we have made you different nations and people so that you would know each other. إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. And the best among you is the most pious. So that's it, I think.
What a way to end this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to have Sheikh Mohamed. Thank you.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you very much for giving me this chance.
This 2 hours from your time to be in this podcast. I really, really value it. I really wish you all the best.
You
and
too,
congratulations to you on your achievement.
You too, brother.
What you have done in a very short span of time is humongous.
I humbly accept and thank you a lot also.
So thank you for that. As we said in this beginning of this podcast, if you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe, because 2023 is all about hot and interesting guests lined up for that. Stay tuned and see you soon. Boom.
أحسنت حبيبي. خوش حلقة والله. خوش حلقة. لا واجد تمام.